I want to do a couple housekeeping items before we get into the debate and introducing our guests at the head table. First off, I want to recognize all our board members. And I want board members, would you please stand? So everyone can see this concerted effort, to put this program together for you here today. And I saw one board member didn't stand up. Mark Ryan, you need to stand up. Okay? And why don't you come on over here for a second? I got something. Now, as I've been talking about over the course of this fiscal year or this calendar year, NEBA is an organization driven by volunteers. There's no one paid to do this. It's the volunteers of the board and the efforts that they're putting in. Mark Ryan here is our accountant. He's been my accountant for 20 years. And stand right there, sir. And he and his firm has taken care of all of our accounting with the IRS, with the state, and making sure that we're fiscally sound in the eyes of the bureaucracy and the tax collector. And he's done a fantastic job, and he's given us more money in kind than we probably deserve. So I want to say on behalf of the board and the NEBA membership, Mark Ryan, I want to give you this Friend of NEBA award. And how appropriate, and I know he's a low-key gentleman, he doesn't like this kind of attention, but that's too bad, we had to give that to you. And so what I'd like to do now is introduce, or have our elected officials and candidates introduce themselves. I'm going to go sweep from my left to right. First off, our elected officials, and then the candidates. I would ask you for time purposes just to introduce yourself, your position, and whether or not you're running for re-election. So let's go ahead and start on this side of the room. Anyone here at the table? Yes, sir.
I'm Judge Jason Jones, and I am running on the August ballot on August 23rd. So please vote.
Great to have you here, Your Honor. Thank you. Oh, and we can save the applause for last, just in case, just rip through it. Go ahead, sir.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Rudy Ferguson. I'm running for Leon County at large, District 2.
All right, thank you. Also, we'll just do candidates and incumbents going down. Yes, Commissioner. Great to have you here, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Jeremy Matlow, running for re-election, but I'm just here for fireworks.
And we shall see if that comes to fruition. Anyone else on this side? Candidate.
Good afternoon, Dustin Rivest. I'm running for District 5, Leon County Commission.
All right, great to have you here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Caroline Clanky. I, too, am running for Leon County Commission, District 5. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
All right, keep on going.
Good afternoon, my name is Damian Victor, and I'm running for Leon County Commission, District 3. Thank you for having me.
All right, anyone we're going this way, the needle keeps on going. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, David O'Keefe. I'm running for County Commission, District 5.
Anyone else we missed here that's running for office? If you're thinking about it, that's the next meeting. We'll go in the end here, then we'll meet in the middle. Go ahead, lady in the back. All right, wonderful.
I'm David Bellamy, running for City Commissioner.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bellamy? Anyone here? I want to make sure we get everybody here. Yes, Commissioner.
I've been standing for a while.
Hey, well, you get more spotlight that way, don't you?
I'm Curtis Richardson, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Tallahassee, and I'm running to Annapolis, Maryland later today for my daughter's graduation.
Thank you for coming here, and good luck with the airport. That's another debate we'll have, okay? Getting through the TSA. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you for all. It's great to have so many elected officials and candidates who are looking to make this community a better place to live and work. And that is always good to see people wanting to be in public service. Speaking of candidates, I also want to say that we do have a literature table, so if you want to learn about any of the candidates for this election cycle, they have their literature at the table. So if you haven't already, go ahead and grab that on the way out. Also, you got a little bit of a heads up on next month. We're going to have a continuation of the debates. We're going to have the debate between Commissioner Jeremy Matlow and candidate David Bellamy for the City Commission seat 3. Mark your calendar, that's going to be on June 21st. So I would recommend that, as you did for this meeting, go ahead and register early so you can make sure you have a seat right in the front row. For members, a couple announcements for members. You're going to see on your table some index cards. This is for members only, not guests or otherwise. Go ahead and write your questions for the candidates. Catherine will come around during the course of the debate and collect them from you and give them to Doug Wheeler. If we have time at the end, because we have 4 candidates, so we're going to need to run through the questions that we've pre-written here. We'll try to get to your questions. Doug will sift through them, and if we have time for a question or two, I'll go ahead and read those. So go ahead and fill those out while you can. Also, when you were handed a poll when you were signing in this morning, so go ahead and make sure you vote who you think won the debate. Give that to either Catherine or one of the board members that stood up, and we'll go ahead and tally that after the meeting, and we'll announce the winner of the straw poll later this afternoon. And for those of the press, Dave Fiore will go ahead and get in touch with you and give you the results once they're tallied. All right, so now let's start. Let me introduce the head table, and I would ask you to hold your applause until everyone's introduced. That way we can just save some time. On my far right, your left, is candidate for office Whitfield Leland. Thank you for being here. Also, then coming this way would be Mayor John Dailey. Thank you, sir, for coming on. And next candidate for office is Michael Ibrahim. And to my immediate right is County Commissioner Kristin Dozier. I'm Patrick Slevin, the president of NEBA, and I have the honor of moderating today's debate. Doug Wheeler, our board member and past president. And we got 2 slots here for those who have been working outside for other board members, Kayla Hardy and also Cindy LaVoy. And so that way they have some place to sit if that's not already taken. Oh, and by the way, those who are in the overflow, if you're sitting at that table, once you're done with your meal, you can stand up and come on over here. Make sure you're hearing everything with the debate, so we have no problem with some standing room type of aspects, right? All right, so let me lay down some of the predicate here for today's debate. None of the candidates have any pre-knowledge as to what I'm about to say, so this really puts them in a good situational awareness and making sure we're not as scripted from stump speeches, but really getting the input from the candidates so we can get a true feel for what this election cycle is going to unfold for our decision to vote later this year. So each candidate will have a minute to respond to our questions. Jackie here, our secretary, will keep time and give 2 signs to help you manage your time, and I'll just do a dry run. When you're 40 seconds into your response, she's going to give you the yellow. And then when you're a minute, you're going to get the red. Yeah, 0 when the countdown. However you're counting up or down, I'll leave that to you. But when you see the red, I'd ask you to bring it in for a landing. And before I forget, if we got 4 candidates, that's 4 minutes, and we have 10 pre-described questions, and some I have to ad-lib. And now, if I think there's one topic that you all say you're talking about, and I thought we need to go a little deeper, I'll make sure everyone goes 1 minute, and then I'll ask a follow-up question, and just be situational. It's not going to be pre-written, but maybe something we need to talk about a little bit more for the benefit of the members. And if we have time, I will give you each a minute before closing statements. We'll have closing statements, and Jackie asked you to make sure you let me know we have 8 minutes left, right? For closing statements, you have 2 minutes, but there's a little gap there. I want to give you each a minute to talk about something that you either want to drill in more, or we haven't brought up in the questions yet and you want to address. So give you that kind of latitude to ensure that the voters are hearing your position and your platform. And once again, if time permits, I'll look at any questions that Doug gives me on behalf of the members in the audience and see if we can get those questions going. All right, so last but not least, I'm not asking for opening statements. I'm just going to go right into the questions. And we did a coin flip, And our first candidate, the question will go to Commissioner Dozier. And the question is this, and let me get the questions. And it's a simple question, but it's really relevant for those of us here. Why should small business owners vote for you?
That is a great question, and let me get that closer, as Catherine told me to. I am very glad to be here with you today. Thank you to NEBA, thank you to all of you for showing up. Small business owners, I hope, will vote for me and should support me because I have worked in small business. I have a lot of experience in the private sector, and I carried that into my work in the last 12 years in the County Commission. I have focused on opportunities, on looking for diversifying our economy, supporting all of our business, growing talent, and importantly, I'm making decisions that are in the best interest for all of us, not a select few. This is why I opposed funding for Doak Campbell Stadium. We gave $27 million for return on 34 permanent jobs, and that decision went against our promise to have that money work for businesses in this community. People are struggling right now. You can't find talented workers. You can't find jobs if you need it. Okay, there you go. Thank you very much.
I got mine too.
Nice one, Jackie.
Oh, and before I forget, please do not applaud or heckle or anything like that. We want to make sure that we have a true forum. Not that you did that, but just setting you up for success. Because sometimes, I'm a public affairs guy, we like to plant people and start fabricating all that stuff. Not today, please, because that really will interfere with the nature of the debate. So, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Leland, the same question goes to you as it will to the other candidates. Why should small business owners vote for you?
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for having me. As a small business owner myself, I understand the challenges that we have in building a reputation with other small businesses, but also the community. Small business can't really necessarily strive unless the people that work for us really enjoy working for us and have a decent place to work. And I just understand that for us to grow in our city, our small businesses have to be strong. We can't continue to filter our money into big developers and out of timers when we're leaving our small businesses struggling, trying to make ends meet or keep employees. That's why small business owners should work.
Thank you. Mr. Ibrahim. Yes.
Hello. I did not bring any notes. I did not think I'm allowed to bring notes with me. Everybody have notes. But as a small business owner, the hardest thing of running a business right now is actually retaining employees. And when we have a government that supports giving free money for people that would otherwise have to go and work, we are hurting our economy. And we cannot keep doing that because this country was built by farmers and small business owners. And the spirit of starting a business and making it is only valid in this country. No other country you can do that. And for that reason, I believe people would have I believe people would vote for me because I understand the pain of running a small business and what it takes to run a small business.
I'm going to leave it at that. And it's okay if you don't have notes. That's spontaneity. You got to, if you're going to lead a city, you got to know what you're going to do on your feet, right? So Mayor Dailey, finish us off.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, first I'd like to take a second to introduce my wife, Virginia Dailey, who's sitting on the front row. And I'd like to say it's great to see all the candidates. We're going to have a wonderful election cycle. Folks, I am your mayor that 3.5 years ago ran to keep this economy going, and as a result, going into the COVID pandemic, we had one of the fastest growing economies per capita in the state of Florida. And coming out of the pandemic, we have one of the fastest growing economies per capita in the state of Florida. Last year alone, we had over $850 million with the private investment in this community. And yes, I support our higher education institutions. We are a college town, and it is a partnership. And when you have a $1 billion tourism budget that is based on the higher education system, it is important for us to work together. I am the only candidate that is sitting up here that supported and voted in favor of the COVID small business grant program that we created. In fact, I am the only candidate sitting up here that voted in favor of the Office of Economic Vitality when it was created. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, now we're going to lead off with Mr. Leland. You're going to lead off the second question. What's your specific vision for a better Tallahassee? And before you answer that, did everyone hear the mayor just fine in the microphone? Okay, because all right, just make sure we get it closer to you, sir. And also, Mr. Leland, why don't you pull that a little closer, because you two are sharing it, and we want to make sure everyone hears what you have to say. So the question again is, what's your specific vision, Mr. Leland, for a better Tallahassee?
Thank you. My vision for a better Tallahassee is being community-based. Elected officials are public service of the community. And the elected officials we have now does not represent the community needs and wants. The community goes to these officials and nothing happens. So in my vision, I'm community-based. If the community wants it and we can make it happen and we all at the table, not just one individual or specific community, we need to sit at the table together to make it happen, not just individualized. If we work together as a community and making sure that everybody is involved in the conversation, then we'll have a better Tallahassee.
All right, Mayor Dailey? We'll wait until someone gets their phone call. Someone said hello. Go ahead, Mayor.
Excellent. I hope you can hear me okay through the microphone. Folks, when I stood before you 3.5 years ago, I promised you that we were going to work hard on this economy and we were going to keep it going. We were going to clean up City Hall because we all have just been through this federal corruption trial, and that we were going to straighten out the city and we were going to plan forward and move forward. And I kept my word to you. Now, moving forward from here, it's about job creation. It's about expanding the economy. It's about providing those opportunities to everyone, no matter where you live, no matter who you love, no matter what you do for a living or where you worship. That's what makes Tallahassee so special. We can talk about, and we will talk about, probably all the challenges that we're facing with the economy. And folks, I'm here to tell you, a lot of communities are facing the exact same challenges. But if we can provide incredible economic opportunities, if we can provide jobs for everyone, we are truly going to take Tallahassee to the next level.
All right, Mr. Ibrahim.
So I believe a better Tallahassee is possible by having higher wages in Tallahassee. Better jobs is necessary for having people want to come and live in Tallahassee. The average salary in Tallahassee is $46,000. The average salary in the United States is $65,000. Tallahassee as a city is a beautiful city with beautiful people, but we do not have high-paying jobs. And I believe bringing higher-paying jobs means helping business owners expand their businesses and helping the city to be a fertile ground for big businesses to come and want to open up shops here in Tallahassee. Not only that would bring jobs to this town, it will also bring higher paying jobs to this town. And I think that's what really matters. Not just jobs, higher paying jobs.
Commissioner Dozier?
Thank you. My vision for Tallahassee is a strong, thriving economy that works for everyone, and a city government that is transparent and responsive to everyone. Mayor Dailey said he kept his word when he sat here in 2018 and told you jobs would be his #1 focus, and that he supports higher education. From my 12 years of experience, I have focused on entrepreneurs and diversifying this economy, which has been a need my entire life, probably going back before that. we have needed to create new opportunities and tap into the potential of our universities to support entrepreneurs, create new jobs and new opportunities, and yes, increase wages. The decision to give money to the stadium, an existing asset, it's a good project, but FSU could have had that money. This was our set aside, our sales tax, precious dollars that were supposed to be used for job creation. First 2 years, we invested $22 million and created over 3,000 jobs. That's what we lost.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I saw the red sign, but I was waiting for the.
I was waiting for it, yeah.
No, I like that. I mean, that was a nice effect. We'll have to keep that.
I was waiting for it too.
Yeah. Okay, I would have done the same thing. So, but we want to make sure we're equitable for all parties. And this next question, I'm going to give each candidate 2 minutes to respond. And Mayor Dailey, you're going to lead this off. And it's a two-part question. Yes or no? We're going to start off with the yes or no. We know that no one likes to have that, but you have a chance to clarify it, so don't get too nervous. Yes or no, is there a correlation between our homelessness problem and crime rates, such as shootings, with Tallahassee being designated a sanctuary city? Then, if not, if you're going to say no, and I want to hear yes or no to start off, please, then explain what are the drivers to the homelessness and the crime problems, and how you intend to solve these problems. Go ahead, Mary. You got 2 minutes.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I understand the questions correctly. So the first question deals with the correlation between homelessness and the violent crime in Tallahassee. And are they related or are they not related? And if they're not related, then how are we moving forward to tackle these issues? Okay.
I would clarify there's a cause and effect here. Is the sanctuary city the cause, and is the effect or result the homelessness and the crime?
Okay. So when it comes to the sanctuary city, this was an issue that we dealt with before I was elected mayor. It has not come into play since I have been mayor. I have not been contacted formally as a sanctuary city, so I don't know if I can properly answer that. I can tell you that the correlation between homelessness and those experiencing homelessness and the violent crime in this community, I do not think are directly related. We have a problem with drugs still in our community, specifically marijuana, weed. You ask the sheriff, you ask the state attorney, they will tell you the exact same thing, where you have drug busts that are going wrong, and that is what's causing a lot of the violent crime in our community. Now, having said that, do we have a challenge with those experiencing homelessness? Absolutely. Did COVID do us any favors? Absolutely not. When you look at how homelessness services are coordinated, they're coordinated on the federal level on an 8-county region. Folks, out of the other 7 counties that are in our region, there are not any other shelters. There are not other services to the level that we have in Leon County. Hence, we see the homelessness that are coming to Tallahassee. On top of that, there are legal issues that we do have to deal with. Constitutional protected speech that we've been working with our city attorney's office and with the police department. Now, are we moving forward? Absolutely. Do we have programs that are working? Absolutely. The Tempo program that was created by the city of Tallahassee is one of the greatest programs that is truly positively impacting violent crime in our community. We are taking at-risk youth. We are giving them exposure. We are giving them opportunities. Half of the students coming in have some type of run-in with law enforcement, and our graduation rate is stellar. Almost zero recidivism. We have set aside in this budget an additional $1 million specifically for gun violence deterrence. So we are serious. We know we have our challenges, and we continue to work with our community partners to address. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right on there. It's going to kind of haunt me for the rest of the day. Commissioner Dozier, you got 2 minutes to answer the question, yes or no. Is it the sanctuary city that's causing the homeless and the crime problems, and if not, what it is and what you propose to do to solve it?
Well, in the sanctuary city question, I do agree with the mayor. I've not been contacted, I mean, that would be a city issue, but we've not heard this issue come up. But the homelessness and crime issue are 2 of our top concerns. And while there might be some overlap at times, I think they are distinct. We do have a challenge with gun violence, and it is persisted for a long time, got better for a little while, and we need to do things different. I was a very strong supporter of Sheriff McNeil's proposal after the Anatomy of the Homicide report came out for the Commission on the Status of Men and Boys. The county was the first in with that initiative, and thankfully the school board and the city both supported. This group will actually have the funding, as the mayor, or as the sheriff likes to say, we've been talking for a long time, it's time to get something done. It will take a new approach, intervention early, to try to address particularly young men who might get into a place where they are expelled from school and get into crime, and we want to prevent that at the front end. We are also addressing both TPD and the Sheriff's Department mental health with new units. The county also funded a few deputy positions to work with the street outreach teams, directly engage with those who are experiencing homelessness, and try to get them services. We are doing things different, but importantly, we need more coordination. And one of the key factors, and I was the first chair of the Big Bend Continuum of Care, that's the 8-county board that the mayor referenced. I was the first chair, learned a lot, and if we don't coordinate city, county with all of our partners, we leave money on the table from the state and feds, and that's what's happened. When City Walk went in on Mahan Drive, those are constituents of District 5, I heard from them a lot, and it was really challenging to get that coordination between the city and the county. And I think we could do a lot better, draw down more funds, and address both of these issues.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Leland, you're next.
I don't know about the sanctuary city like them, so, but I do think that homelessness and the gun violence we're seeing is it goes hand in hand right now. And the reason why I say that is because if you really look at the individuals that are committing these crimes, they don't have nowhere to go. They're living from pillar to post. So if you look at it, that is homelessness. And at the end of the day, we have the programming to deal with this issue. We don't have to keep pouring money into programming. What we need to do, we need to pour money into people serving these programs. It's a lot of nonprofits out there that have great programs, but you know why they lack? What they lack in? They lack in employees to get the service to the people. So that, as mayor, that would be one of my goals, is to strengthen our nonprofit world, because our nonprofit world do way more than we give them credit to, and they do it with a little bit of nothing. And we spend dollars building programs for what? When we got them now. We already have it. We just have to put the people in places to implement. And it can't be a executive director and a program director and 50 million volunteer staff. It don't work like that, because when you volunteer, sometimes you get weary. But when you get paid to do something, you make sure you get the job done so you can get your check.
Go ahead, Mr. Ibrahim.
So the question is if there is a correlation between homelessness and violent crime, and I do believe there is a correlation between homelessness and violent crime. For someone to be homeless, that means they lost everything. They got nothing to fight for. They're done. But as a city, as an American city, with the funds that we have and with the land available that we have, the fact that we have 1,000 homeless in Tallahassee is something that is very sad. I'd like to bring international ideas to the table. A country like Finland had a huge homeless situation in the early 2000s, and they started by building housing first for the homeless. You can't have a shelter and say we've done enough. A homeless is a human, and a human in a hierarchy of needs requires to have a shelter. And if we have the resources to build houses, understand the housing market is crazy, housing prices are expensive, but we have the technology to 3D print the house. We have the technology to build houses with containers. And the fact that we have these technologies and these abilities and the money, and we're not doing anything about homelessness but building shelter, it doesn't make sense, because we are letting people go into dark places where the only escape that they figure is alcohol and drugs. And when you have a lot of alcohol and a lot of drugs and no shelter, crimes will happen. That's just simple fact of the matter. And our police force in Tallahassee, I get the whole idea of defunding the police. I do not agree with that. We need to have strong police force in Tallahassee because no civilization can last without strong security. If I don't feel secure to do business, I don't want to leave my house to go and do business. So yes, there is a huge correlation between homelessness and violent crime in Tallahassee. I don't have children, but if I had a child, I would not let him go grab a gallon of milk from the gas station that is in Pensacola Street. I can't do that.
We'll leave it at that. And you're going to lead off this, the answer, Mr. Ibrahim, this next question, which we segue nicely into, and that's, you mentioned law enforcement, so let's go there. So how important is it to you as the next mayor to have a trusting relationship with law enforcement? Let me clarify that by saying, how does that impact fighting crime in our community?
My father was a police officer for 35 years in Egypt. Egypt is a Muslim country. We're Christian, and it was very hard to have a cop in a Christian country. And I understand the importance of having a strong but reputable police force, because cops are just humans that go on and do not know if they're coming back. And if anyone is married to a police officer, they will understand that every time this police officer put in the badge and put in the gun and they go out, they might not come back. And the fact that our police officers are getting paid less than security guards in Amazon, that's something that needs to be changed. Because those men and women, they do a lot for our city, and we have to value that. We have to value that. And now the other part where we send cops for everything, that have to change, because if there is a dispute and there is no history of gun violence or of craziness in that dispute, we don't have to send armed forces. We can send non-armed officers to where it's a lot easy to de-escalate a situation when someone is standing in front of you with no gun, body, and all that stuff. But I do get the point of having that, because these men and women have to be protected, because the service that they do for our city is invaluable. And without police officers, clearly civilization cannot continue. We have to have a strong police force that respect and care for the community. So if someone who's born in San Diego, doesn't make sense for them to come and serve as police officers in Tallahassee. They should be born in Tallahassee to serve in Tallahassee. Thank you.
And we're back on 1 minute. How long was that, Jackie? Was that 2 minutes? All right. So I got to be equitable. So, let's be equitable. Up to 2 minutes, but if you can be shorter, you'll save yourself some time to answer other questions. Mayor, you're up next. You have up to 2 minutes, for fairness. And the question again is, how important is it to have the trust of law enforcement, and how does that translate into fighting crime for the fact?
So, I will try not to take up 2 minutes. It's extremely important that your mayor has a good, if not a great, working relationship with the law enforcement in your community. Let me remind you, the law enforcement in the community is not just Tallahassee Police Department, it's also the Sheriff's Department, FSU PD, FAMU PD, TCC Police Department, along with the federal and the state presence that we have. Because we all have to work together. We saw that when I was your mayor, when we were named a domestic terrorist threat and had to work with all the law enforcement agencies to protect downtown Tallahassee. We have seen time and time again. But let me be clear. In order to be a cutting-edge police department, we need to embrace change when appropriate, and we need to move forward. And I am proud to say that our chief in our department has done so. If you think about the fact that in the past 3.5 years, we have created the Police Review Board to formally review officer-involved incidences. We have created the Police Citizens Advisory Committee that proactively makes suggestions to the police department on how they can modernize and change. We have the Youth Advisory Committee, where we allow the youth to stay in constant contact with law enforcement to advise them on how to build great relationships. We do have the team, which I was very proud to create and bring forward, which is our mental health response unit. Knowing that a lot of the calls that come through 911 are not physical emergencies, they are mental health emergencies. Led by a true mental health professional. The second position is a true paramedic, emergency medical personnel from the Tallahassee Fire Department, and then a police officer that serves just in case we need it. On top of that, we have also created the civilian force. If you are in a car accident, everyone is fine. And nobody needs a sworn law enforcement officer for the insurance purposes of the accident. We now have a civilian force. You're absolutely correct, Michael. Making sure that we modernize the force to make sure that law enforcement, that our sworn personnel are dealing with those crisis situations.
Wrap it up, Mayor.
But making sure that we have a 21st century force is very important as well, and we're there.
Commissioner Dozier?
Thank you. Trust is critical. It's everything. And not just with law enforcement, with all of our first responders. And particularly in the last 2 years, I think we have to give a huge thank you to all of our first responders who were on the front lines during the pandemic and when a lot of issues got even tougher for them. They were still on the force doing the job. Pay, benefits, the morale of the department, that is critical. Absolutely. And we have to have a good working relationship between the mayor's office and the PBA, but also our department. We also have to have trust that the city management will have the back of the police department and address issues in the right way. And I think there's really some work that can be done in having the city management and the mayor, particularly the commission, bring people together because we know things get tough sometimes. There are questions that come up about certain incidents, and we could do a much better job of being upfront and communicate and be responsive to the community. I think that will build trust in the department and address some of these long-standing issues. Yes, we need to embrace change. Yes, we need to have new technology, new ways of doing things. As we said, the mental health, a lot of these different issues that where we're looking at it in a different way. These are very good and we need to explore more of them. But I am really concerned about that working relationship with the community, the communication that happens. And one of the things I hear most often is it is difficult to work with the city. It's difficult to bring new ideas in. It's difficult because they know best. And this starts at the top. It starts with the management. And we have to be responsive to new ideas, wherever they might come from. We have to build relationships with all of those different law enforcement partners throughout the community and make sure that there are strong ties between TPD and the Sheriff's Department and all of the others in our community. I think we can do better.
And Mr. Leland, why don't you wrap us up on this question?
Yes, I think that I know we need trust, but to build trust, though, you have to build relationships. And I think that's where we're lacking. Like, I'm from Tallahassee. I was born and raised here all my life. And I remember a time there was an officer named Chuck Perry that was on the force. You know, Chuck Perry got out of his car. He made sure everybody knew who he was. Ratcliffe, it was a whole gang of them that worked for TPD that got out of their cars and walked. You knew exactly who they were. And you could be doing whatever you're doing and they'll tell you, hey, listen, if I see you again, you're going to jail. The problem wasn't there. Then when somebody had an issue, guess who they called? Chuck Perry. They would reach out. Now it's like, who can we trust in the Tallahassee Police Department? Because we see issues going wrong and it's no accountability for it. Like, even if it is accountability for it, the accountability, you have to dig 5 to 6 pages on the website to find it. That's not being transparent. Everything starts with leadership. And I really think that our city manager, our city manager leadership is, on that aspect, is not necessarily where we want it to be. Even if we dig in to find out what the process was to get Chief Revel, I think we would really see that that wasn't a process that I think the community would have agreed on and went forward with. So I think it's a lot of things about changing, but I will tell you this, being from the north side, Frenchtown, being in the south side, all those areas, the community doesn't have a problem with the police. It's the relationship, the respect that the police doesn't give the community just because of the area that they're in. That starts with leadership. That starts with the top. So if the people at the top is okay with that kind of behavior, they'll never be trusted with between the communities that we want them to be and TBD.
Next question, Commissioner Dozier, we'll lead off with you. Blueprint Tallahassee. What's that? Yes, we're doing 1 minute. And we're going to keep doing 1 minute until otherwise, I said, okay? So Blueprint Tallahassee has received a lot of attention recently, right, with the FSU funding? So how would you characterize Blueprint's successes and failures, and what will you do to ensure its future success? 1 minute.
Great question. Blueprint has been the gold standard. It's been a model for other communities, and it's because we listed our projects in advance. We came to an agreement between the city and county. Everyone knew what we were going to build before we voted on Blueprint 2000. We voted, the referendum passed, we went out and did that. Something very different happened in 2014, and a lot of us supported it, setting aside 12% for economic development. Now, Mayor Dailey said a little while ago that he's the only one who voted for OEV, for the creation of our Office of Economic Vitality. I absolutely supported bringing our economic development organization into the city and county family. It used to be run through the Tallahassee Chamber. But I was very concerned that we would be disconnected from the private sector and that it could turn into a slush fund. And I think we see the evidence of that. OEV does not have the same rules as the infrastructure side. The infrastructure side is fantastic. We are investing all through our community, and that's wonderful. But the economic development side, we are disconnected from the private sector. We do not hear directly from you or even those who are on our leadership council. And we need to change that. And if I was mayor, I would focus on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Dailey?
Blueprint 2000 has been a success story since the beginning. This is one of these situations where we need to pay close attention to what is being said and how we vote. I will say it one more time. I am the only candidate here that actually voted for the creation of the Office of Economic Vitality, which passed 11-1. This most recent year we have learned great public spaces and public investment brings private investment. Let's look at Cascades Park. What a tremendous example of putting your public dollars into infrastructure with a $160 million AC Marriott and complex following behind it. When we vote against the Blueprint budget on principle, you are voting against jobs. You are voting against infrastructure. You are voting against the airport gateway. You are voting against improved roads and sidewalks. You are voting against over $270 million south of Tennessee Street. It works. I support it. I will continue to support Blueprint.
Mr. Ibrahim, go ahead and answer the Blueprint question.
All right, so I'm not a politician. I've never been in politics. So I'm a business owner. Blueprint, I literally have to Google it right now. It's basically funds for large projects. Am I correct? Right? So let's start by our airport. Our airport is called Tallahassee International Airport. There is no international flights out of Tallahassee International Airport. That does not make any sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense that to land in Tallahassee, that Delta or the airplane companies have to pay more than most airports in the United States. It doesn't make sense. That's why cities like Destin and Panama City and Pensacola, they all have better airports than Tallahassee, and that does not make sense. So yes, it sounds Cascade Park, beautiful, I agree. It brought a lot of much needed, what's the word I should use? Much needed swag to Tallahassee, if I should. It did.
We can end that with swag. Swag is good. We'll keep it there.
And it did. Yeah. But where else?
Well, you got the red. You got the red, sir. So
did I already?
Yeah. So swag was with a period, not a comma. So for a non-politician, that was pretty good.
Thank you.
Mr. Leland, we'd like to get your thoughts and impressions on Blueprint. No pun intended.
Blueprint is something that our elected officials voted on. It's a process. I do think that the process is a little screwed for the people in the community to really know what's going on. And the job, I feel like the job of the mayor is to get everybody working together. Even if y'all feel like dope shouldn't get 27 million, okay, where do we get this 27 million to give it to them from? You know, if y'all don't want to take it out of there, let's put our heads together and find the 20 million to support this, and not just bank OEV, which is basically what we did. And I got another question. What has that entity done really in this community? So I think that we need to really look back at the processes, the meetings, and how we get the information out of what's going on in Blueprint.
Thank you. And I was looking at the time. We got a couple more questions. Isn't time flying when you're having fun, right? And so with that, let's talk about ethics. And we'll, Mayor, we'll begin with you on answering this question. Ethics is still an important issue for the city of Tallahassee, obviously. What has been accomplished since the Maddox and Burnett convictions, and what do you believe still needs to be done?
Patrick, got
1 minute. We'll do 2 minutes on this. We'll do 2 minutes.
Folks, again, I stood before you 3.5 years ago as a candidate, knowing that we had to clean up City of Tallahassee, City Hall. We had to change the way how we did business. I mean, I campaigned on this. I was at the forum 3.5 years ago saying the exact same thing. And we set out a very bold and audacious goal, and we accomplished that goal. Now, we're not completely done, but we're moving forward. Folks, you do realize that we passed the strongest ethics reform package in the 198-year history of the city of Tallahassee. We passed the strongest ethics reform package of any municipality in the state of Florida, and have now set the model example of where other communities called us wanting copies of how we did it. As the mayor, and as a directly elected ceremonial mayor, let me remind you, limited responsibilities, but one happens to be the flow of the meeting, and opening it up, and making sure that we have true public participation. Now, Patrick, the second part of the question is, even with all those accomplishments, historic ethics reform package, setting the model across the state of Florida, bringing full financial disclosure down to the penny for all your municipal elected officials, the zero gift ban. Are we done? Absolutely not. In fact, we've had a few individuals in this community that have come forward with ideas that are in consideration as we speak. And as a board, we will continue to work not only with the Tallahassee Ethics Board, but with citizens as they have good ideas. You never draw a hard line and say, we are done, here we go. But I'm here to tell you, I am extremely proud of where we are, what we have accomplished in 3.5 years in the direction that we're going. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Let's see. Commissioner Dozier.
We have accomplished a lot, both the city and the county have, but we have more work to do. The financial disclosures, other things like that, they're a good step. But just recently, some of those ideas that have come up are about the definition of lobbying. I actually think the ethics board and the city attorney had some good alternatives. But the response by the city commission, by the majority, was, well, we may be out of step with Blueprint or with CRA or with our other agencies. That's easy to address. We just bring up that language change of the other agencies and have all of us step it up and define lobbying in a fuller, more robust way that really will cover some of the issues we've seen in the past. We need to look at those issues not just from an internal perspective, but hearing from others as well. And we need to be responsive to them. Now, Mayor Dailey just said something interesting. It's also about the flow of the meeting, encouraging public participation. Yes, there have been some procedural changes, but I challenge anyone to say that we have good and a good way of running our meetings right now that really encourages public trust, public participation. We have a majority of commissioners who will shut down debate. They will end meetings when they don't like what one person's saying. And let's be clear, I don't always like what that one person might be saying or another person might be saying. But they are a duly elected representative of this community, and they have the right to speak, as do all members of the public. Ethics is also about the respect we give, the public trust that we build, and I think that has been damaged time and again in the last few years. We are not moving forward. And transparency is also a critical issue here. It's not just about the rules when something goes wrong, it's about what we're doing in our own house, in City Hall, from city management, and making sure we are transparent, we know what the budget looks like.
I need to
and
be
we-
transparent
yes.
about
Okay.
ending your 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm still waiting on the
Yeah,
duck.
I'm
I'm still
exposed.
waiting on the duck.
I'm
There.
exposed.
Nice one. Thank you. Yes, yeah. Stop the duck. Jackie, gotta bring it back. Thanks.
Mr. Ibrahim.
May you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Ethics is still an important issue for the city of Tallahassee. What has been accomplished since the Maddox and Burnett convictions, and what do you believe still needs to be done?
So ethics and integrity, they go hand in hand. As I said, I'm not a politician, but I believe that, FSU Stadium is a beautiful stadium. Did it need repairs? Of course. We need to have preventive maintenance to keep something good going. Did it need $26 million repairs? I don't think so, because I believe that $26 million should have been spent on other parts of Tallahassee that could have brought more opportunities to the residents of these other parts of Tallahassee. Frenchtown, for example, it's one of the oldest settlements in Tallahassee. People came to Frenchtown from Louisiana, from other places, and when the plantation failed, they left. And to this day, if you go to Frenchtown, it's like a third world country. It's not Tallahassee. This is like going somewhere that is not Tallahassee. And this is sad because this is a part of Tallahassee. And I think $26 million being spent on Frenchtown would have brought a lot more ROI, return on investment, than it being spent on that stadium. Nothing against FSU Stadium, I love FSU, but I believe spending money wisely is part of ethics. And just because you did not work hard for that money doesn't give you the right to spend it on things that is less important than other things. Public money is, if you're a mayor and you have access to public money where you can spend it, you have to take in consideration vast spectrum of people, whether they agree to where this money being spent is the right move or whether it should be spent somewhere else. And I don't think that happened with the $26 million. I don't.
Mr. Leland, if we can give us your impressions on ethics of the city.
Well, we've came a long ways, but it's still plenty, like a lot of work to do. Like lobbying is one of them. I don't even recall the last time we had an audit to see where all our money going. Even with, like I said, it starts with leadership. And at the end of the day, the community, and I go to a couple meetings and I hear them dealing with lobbying, and the commissioners sit up there and they don't do nothing. So my thing is, at the end of the day, when it's always per staff direction. We elected them to change policies according to the behaviors and situations that's going on currently in our city. And because they don't feel like that's proper, then they overlook the people who vote for them. So I really do think that when we talk about ethics, I kind of think that we kind of probably don't need, the ethics review board and the Inspector General's office. I think the Inspector General's office kind of blocks a little bit of what they do and kind of hides a lot of things that, may come out. So I think that what we have created now is a system that kind of washed each other's hands inside the system where we can't see it. So that's my opinion on ethics. But I think we need to go all the way down the board and cut everything out and start from zero. Do audits, change the lobbying policy, everything. Give the people what they want so they can have trust back into the elected officials, because everybody thinks the elected officials just want to move money around.
Thank you. And before we get to the next stage, I just want to recognize Commissioner Bill Proctor is here. Yeah, got you on the spot, Commissioner. Here you go. Any other elected officials walked in late? All right. So here's what I'm going to do. We're running down towards the end. I know I promised you, even though I'm not a politician, I made a promise that you'd have 2 minutes to close, but I really want to get one more question in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do one more question with 1 minute response, and then I'm going to ask you to do a 1 minute close. That way it's a benefit for the audience. And Mr. Leland, you're going to close us out with the last question, and then we'll go to closing after that sequence. And so, Mr. Leland, the question for you to lead off on is, Amazon is coming to Tallahassee. What pros and cons do you see relative to jobs, wages, and transportation issues? 1 minute.
To be totally honest, I've said this with some of the community leaders. I even called some of the commissioners. Amazon probably would be great for city taxes and whatever, but as far as for the people of Tallahassee will not be working at Amazon like we think. It's a huge transportation issue out there. How can I catch the bus from in town all the way out to the interstate? How? And if we look at the jobs that we already have, almost 50% of the people who work for the city, state, or whatever, all of them commute from the surrounding counties. So how can we, if we're doing it home, how can we bring in Amazon and think that Amazon is really going to provide the proper jobs for the people of the city?
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. Amazon was a huge win for our community. This is no doubt. OEV invested $2.5 million as an incentive. There's over 1,300 jobs that will be associated with it. But one of the reasons why I oppose the Joe Campbell Stadium funding is that we need to diversify our economy. We need different types of jobs. We also put in $2.3 million into dam costs. We got jobs that were 150% over average wage, 70% you don't need a 4-year degree. So Amazon is great, huge investment. Capital, everything else, good taxes, but we need other types of jobs as well. Now I took 3 votes on Amazon, one for the incentive, one for the zoning, a sign change at the county. And then I added in a last motion. And I got unanimous support from my colleagues to do a 6-month review of the traffic impacts in that area. It will impact Buck Lake, Walden, Thornton Road, Miccosukee, and to work with the city on establishing bus service and stormwater. And to my knowledge, the city has yet to commit to bus service to Amazon. These are problems, and we could, and I wish we would have leadership from the mayor's office. We need a mayor who's responsive to these issues. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. Amazon is a huge win, and I'm a true believer in making sure that we do things right. Doing things right means proper planning. Of course, we're going to provide proper transportation after the transportation analysis study is done to identify the proper routes to best serve the citizens of Tallahassee. Another challenge, though, that it's going to bring forward with Patrick is housing. And I think we all know that. We all know that we have a housing crunch in this community at all price points, just like all communities are facing a housing crunch. This is where this election is going to be very crucial. Who is willing to step up to the plate and continue to move our community forward with sustainable development, and who is going to say no at every turn?
Mr. Ibrahim.
So, on paper, having Amazon coming to Tallahassee sounds really good, right? Amazon, woohoo, right? But here is the idea. How many small businesses will suffer by having Amazon come to Tallahassee? I'm sure a lot of you guys watched Family Guy, the episode about Amazon. This is how people work in Amazon. They want robots. They don't want humans. They want robots. Because to Jeff Bezos, that's how he can make more money. He doesn't want humans. He wants robots. We don't need Amazon to come in. We need to create the atmosphere to have someone like Jeff Bezos to come from Tallahassee. We have FSU, we have FAMU, we have these 2 great universities that a lot of brain power come out of it every year. Do they stay in Tallahassee? They don't. Everybody want to move down to Broward, everyone want to move to Jacksonville, to other places in Florida, but they really don't want to stay in Tallahassee and create families in Tallahassee and buy houses that have 2-bedroom apartment and that have a garage that they can start a business that in 20 years could be as big as Amazon. That's what we need.
All right. We're now at the closing. We're almost there, and we'll be only just a few minutes past, so I'd ask you to hang in there if you can in the audience. You got 1 minute, and we'll start off with you, Mr. Abraham. Closing comments, and go.
This is amazing. It really is. The fact that I can sit here next to the mayor and debate and talk to you, it's in my country of origin, I would have never asked. And the fact that this is happening here is a great, the fact that this is happening shows how great this country is, show how great the people of this country is, and show how welcoming the people of this country is. And for that, I'm grateful. I thank you all.
Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you all for showing up. I'm running for mayor because I know we can do better. We need to do better. We need to create jobs. We need to grow our community, have smart, responsible developments, and address some of the critical issues we've talked about today. I am not running against John Dailey because we disagree on everything. In fact, we have supported most of the same development projects, infrastructure projects, business incentives, and we work well. We've accomplished a lot. I'm running because of decisions like Doe Campbell Stadium. Decisions that he was ready to say yes to on day one, before any of us saw the budget numbers, before any of us got to hold a public meeting. We need a mayor who is responsive to the community, who is looking for new opportunities, who is willing to work with others. And I have to say that in the last few years, we have seen a mayor who is angry when we dare to question ideas in the public space, who doesn't want these questions raised, doesn't want us to have these discussions. That's why he wants to move past it. This is not about the decision only about the decision that was made. It is about how we move forward from here. I have the private sector experience.
Wrap it up, please.
I have the track record in diversifying our economy, and I am ready to be mayor of this Tallahassee. I know that working together, we can get the job done, and I appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Mr. Leland, closing comments, please.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And the reason why I decided to run for mayor is this is my hometown. I was born and raised here. I love Tallahassee. I love everything about Tallahassee. But it's hard to sit back and see, you know, out of 42 years, and I'm watching everything grow up around me, but my side of town looks the same. Then when we go and we ask for services, we always get turned down. Not because the services is not good, but because of who we are, where we come from. That's not leadership. The mayor is supposed to be able to have conversations with everybody and make a humane decision that best fits the greater good of the community. And that's why I'm running for mayor. Thank you.
Mayor Dailey?
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming out. Kristin, Michael, Leland, thank you all. Look forward to a great campaign trail. 3.5 years ago, folks, think about what we've been through. We've been through a 100-year global pandemic together. We've been through a recession together. We've been through, as a community, a federal corruption trial. We've been through a lot. And every step of the way, you have had strong, steady leadership in your mayor's office. And me. I want to continue to be that mayor. Continue to be that mayor of the city that has the #1 public utilities in the nation. Continue to be that mayor of that city that has the fastest growing economy per capita of any municipality in the state of Florida. Continue to be that mayor who with his colleagues just broke ground on that $28 million international receiving facility at the airport. That will be a complete game changer, not just for our community, but for the surrounding region. Continue to be that mayor that's going to create jobs and economic opportunity for each and every one of you, our family, and our friends. Folks, my name is John Dailey. I'm running for re-election. I'm asking for your vote to be the mayor of the city of Tallahassee. Thank you.
And that concludes our debate. Let's give a hand to our... On behalf of the NEBA board and our members, thank you for being here. It was great to see, wasn't it, these incumbents, but also first-time candidates, and really getting a fresh perspective of what this campaign's going to be. Go ahead and, for the members, make sure we get your ballots. We'll announce the winner later today, and we'll see you on the 21st for the next debate. Thank you.